My name is Ellie Bassett. I'm the Riverkeeper for the Miles-Wye and Eastern Bay Watershed, so collectively it's about 250 square miles. If you're coming over the Bay Bridge and you hit Kent Island, basically everything south of the Kent Narrows Bridge is part of my watershed. So I have the Eastern Bay watershed with lots of little pockets and little bays. And then as you come south and up the Miles River, you could go into St. Michael's. We have the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, which is a key part of both the river and the community. You have the amazing log canoe races that happen every year, which are just beautiful to even watch. Or you could come into the Wye River. One of my favorite locations, I think, is the Wye Island Bridge. This river has some pretty incredible rookeries, which are nesting habitats for blue herons. You could also see many bald eagle while you're out here, which is really encouraging. Something that I personally, as Riverkeeper, am working to increase and protect is our underwater grasses, our submerged aquatic vegetation. We've seen just a tremendous comeback, and unfortunately right now the protection for that grass isn't there. So I'm working to better map those grasses, identify the species, and advocate for better protection. The hydraulic escalator dredge, which is used for the clam fishery, is a particular threat to underwater grasses. The dredge is completely catastrophic to grasses when it goes through it, but it also leaves a large sediment plume which can smother the grass. So we've been working to not only document this activity, but also to advocate for better protection for our grasses. Agriculture can also be a predominant source of pollution to our rivers. To address this, one project that we've been doing at Shore Rivers is called a two-stage ditch, where we convert a traditional V ditch to what is called a two-stage ditch, where essentially we create a bench and we widen out the bottom of that ditch to slow the nutrients and capture that sediment from entering the river. So we're actually in Prospect Bay right now, which is off of Eastern Bay, and there's just a beautiful, healthy bed of redhead grass. You can always kind of tell redhead from the others because of its distinctive leaves. You can see how it's kind of rounded. They're pretty long strands, almost like a fern. We are out here today collecting redhead grass seed, which we will then clean and send to Anne Arundel County Community College, where they will adhere it to sand, and then we will replant it in areas of the Wye River. Underwater grasses are critical to the health of the bay, and many people say that if we bring the grasses back, the bay will come back to life. Not only do they provide oxygen for underwater critters and shelter and food, but they also trap nutrients and trap sediment. So they also improve clarity and improve the water quality in general. Many people see them as a nuisance, but in fact they're a really good indicator of health for the water quality. Generally, the Eastern Bay has better water quality than most of the rivers on the Eastern Shore and shore rivers. And that's mainly because the land to water ratio is very different. So there's much less land and much more water. As we go upstream into the Miles or the Wye, our land becomes much more, which means our clarity will decrease.
2.1.
Our runoff will increase and our nutrients will also increase, which means in general our water quality will be poorer as you go upstream.
7.55 pH.
This is now the worst two rivers of our entire Shore Rivers watershed. So we have some work to do in these regions here, and mainly that's because of clarity, algae, and phosphorus. Our clarity was one of the worst years that we've ever seen, as Matt said. So it makes sense that we have an increased amount of sediment coming into our rivers and an even increased amount of phosphorus that's binded to that soil. A program that's unique to the Eastern Shore and the Miles-Wye River specifically is our Pump Out Boat program, which is funded by the Department of Natural Resources and kept at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. It's a program that's completely free to boaters on the Miles and Wye in an effort to educate them how to properly pump out their boat waste into our pump out boat instead of into our rivers. So it reduces nutrients entering our rivers, it reduces bacteria entering our rivers, and it promotes better water quality and better bay stewardship.
The Miles and Wye rivers are incredibly busy. You can come out here even in a rainy or cool day and there are boats up and down the rivers constantly. So far this year we pumped almost 14,000 gallons of waste out of the boats in the Miles and Wye rivers.
It's just the most wonderful service when you think that someone comes around and helps make a real effort to clean these waters and to keep them clean.
My college required that we take a science course my freshman year, so I took Intro to Environmental Science and I was completely hooked. I learned more out on the river seining with enthusiastic professors about how these rivers influence my society and my local environment than I think I really ever learned from any of my textbooks. And it inspired me to try and provide that same spark to the future generation. You guys ever heard of SAB?
Yes.
Okay, what does SAB stand for?
Submerged aquatic vegetation.
Oh my gosh, high five. Submerged aquatic vegetation. You can't expect anyone to protect what they don't know and what they don't love, so giving them the opportunity to get to know that river a little bit better, I think, is one of the best things that we could do for the future of our rivers. I'm extremely proud to be the Miles-Wye Riverkeeper at Shore Rivers. I'm so fortunate to be able to work on these rivers daily, but to also bring the beauty of these rivers to others. My goal as Riverkeeper is to work myself out of my job and to experience swimmable, fishable rivers.